residents that want to speak on a specific topic. The first person that I have listed here, and if you, I'll call several names if you can kind of stage yourself if you'd like to speak. If you choose not to speak, if you can just acknowledge that you would like not to speak, that would be great. I have M. Tanvir. And after, as Mr. Tanvir is coming down, Mr. Nadar, Vijaka Nadar.
I'm good?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and city council members. I think you all know why we're here, most of the public. I have been a proud Frisco resident for the last 20 years. For me to find out there is an organization raising funds to demolish churches in India is unfathomable to understand, right? So that is the main reason I'm here speaking in front of you. And this happening in the city of Frisco is completely unbelievable for me. I'm an American Indian who grew up in India and proud alumni of a Christian school, St. Mary's. I actually did my schooling there. I know the impact of church and Christianity in India for the upliftment of the country, right? Whether it's feeding the poor, taking care of shelter, healthcare, doesn't matter. It has done wonders to the country and it has uplifted. I'm not going to get into how the father treated me when I bunked school. That's different. But at the end of the day, here I am, right? As an Indian Muslim, I also know what it feels for a worship place to be demolished. Today marks the 30th anniversary of Babri Masjid, which is a 500-year-old masjid illegally demolished. Right, it is a place of worship for Muslims. Multiple states in India have passed laws criminalizing the freedom to choose religion and have criminalized interfaith marriages. This is very similar to Nuremberg laws in Germany in 1940s, which led to the genocide of 6 million Jews. Let that sink in, where things are heading. I asked the City Council to stand with Indian minorities and Christians that live in Frisco, for we're hurt and tormented by the fact that organized planning is being done in the name of charity to demolish 75 churches. As leaders of the community, council members, you all have the responsibility to stand against wrong and take action. We all heard the Pledge of Allegiance under God. We're talking about demolishing houses of God. Please uphold the core values of morals for which the city of Frisco stands for. Strive for being the best city to live in and insist on high standards when it comes to anything that instigates hatred. My ask is 3 from you all. And I know you said there's limited powers you have, but I'm sure you have a magic wand somewhere. 1, condemn vehemently this blatant and brazen display of anti-Christian hate and bigotry. 2, seek an immediate investigation and legal action on this organization for violating its 501c3 status by funding hate and enabling violence. 3, identify mechanisms and actions to ensure any such future events don't occur or dealt with severe consequences to drive zero hatred policy in our city. Thank you for your valuable time. Really appreciate all that you do for our city and our community.
Thank you, council members, for giving me this opportunity to speak. India is in the process of uninstalling Prime Minister Narendra Modi from power, elected after a fatal electoral blunder in 2014. Modi has since then proved to be a communal, power-hungry, illiterate, incompetent, and corrupt prime minister at the helm of one of the 2 largest democracies in the world. Helping him in the process are his supporters in the US. The Indian community was shocked recently when members of the Global Hindu Heritage Foundation sent out an email for a fundraising event in Frisco on November 27. One of the shocking items on the agenda was to demolish 75 churches in Tirupati, a temple town in Andhra Pradesh, India. The email also claims to have 25 full-time members spread over in 5 states in India to welcome back the converted Christians back into Hinduism. GHHF is registered in Texas as a charitable non-profit organization which needs to be investigated and their certification permission revoked. Extreme Hindu nationalists in India and in the US insist that there were forced conversions by Christian missionaries in India decades ago. However, many converted to Christianity to escape the debilitating cruelty of the caste system. Many poor also converted to escape the crippling poverty with an opportunity to educate themselves. But in a Hindu majority country with just 3% of Christians, the doors were always open to reconvert, which most chose not to. Those Hindu nationalists have for decades tried to coerce the poor Christians back into the fold, often with force and violence, which has truly become urgent since 2014. The aggression with which the Hindu nationalism is spreading in the US, infiltrating US politics at all levels in its educational institutions, and also Joe Biden's administration just to ensure that a fascist dictator retains power in India is terrifying. Several offshoots of the communal fascist paramilitary group RSS in India, inspired by the Nazis, are now operating on US soil, including the international wing, the HSS, operating from Houston. Attempts by Hindu nationalists to emphasize their own religion through what seems like harmless celebrations of Indian festivals like Diwali, Raksha Bandhan, involving the local police and politicians, need to be carefully monitored. These celebrations, earlier confined only to the local community, have become increasingly communal, political, and are also now an excuse to earn legitimacy in the larger community. Several city councils in New Jersey, Chicago, Michigan, California, Houston, and Dallas have been warned about this infiltration, and steps are being taken to monitor them. I would also like to say a little about myself. I'm a journalist. I've been reporting on Indian politics for a long time, and I'm really, not only as a Hindu, but also somebody residing here who escaped the oppressing conditions there. I'm terrified of what's happening there, and also from US soil, and that's the reason why I'm here before you all. Thank you.
Pieter Friedrich, if you could come forward and state your address, please.
My address is confidential due to the nature of my work, but I'm coming from Dallas, Texas at the moment. On Christmas Day in 1998, in the Indian state of Gujarat, affiliates of the fascist RSS, a Hindu nationalist paramilitary, took to the streets, chanting slogans about driving out Christians. Over 10 days, they attacked dozens of churches, burning most of them to the ground. Less than a month later, in the Indian state of Odisha, the Australian missionary Graham Staines and his 2 young sons, ages 10 and 6, were burned alive by an RSS mob. Over the years, violence against Christians in Odisha continued, with the RSS storming churches, killing priests, raping nuns, and so on. It came to a head on Christmas Eve 2007 when mobs of thousands took to the streets chanting, "Kill the Christians, destroy the churches." Ultimately, several Christians were murdered, while about 100 churches and 600 Christian homes were demolished. Then in August 2008, the RSS staged an outright pogrom in Odisha. For a week, mobs burned and killed, ultimately slaughtering approximately 100 Christians while demolishing approximately 6,000 Christian homes and 400 churches. 6 years later, the RSS gained national power in India when RSS member Narendra Modi took over as Prime Minister. Modi's bloody past as the Chief Minister of the state of Gujarat, where the RSS massacred thousands of Muslims in 2002, did nothing but help position him in the eyes of the Hindu nationalist movement as the right man to lead the country. And ever since, India has become hell on earth for Indian Muslims and Christians. For Christians, India is now ranked the 10th most dangerous country in the world. They routinely face hundreds of mob attacks per year, attacks where armed mobs of 50 or 100 or 250 or 500 invade Sunday services to destroy the sanctuary, beat the congregants, and drag them into the streets. And yet, just last week, right here in Frisco, Texas, we had an American nonprofit organization fundraising to support the demolition of churches in India at a time when Indian Christians are falling under the knife day by day by day. Today also marks the 30th anniversary of the most infamous demolition by the RSS of a religious structure in independent India, the Babri Masjid. That mob demolition sparked the slaughter of thousands of Muslims across the country. Demolition of Indian churches will similarly spark bloodshed. and yet a Frisco outfit is raising money to support such demolitions. The agenda of the Frisco-based Global Hindu Heritage Foundation will almost certainly contribute to persecution of Christians in India. I urge the Frisco City Council to have the courage to proclaim that GHHF's hateful agenda has no place in Frisco, in Texas, in America, or in the world. If you demonstrate such courage of conviction in standing up for the principles of truth, justice, and religious freedom, the city of Frisco could potentially have a real-world impact to uplift the suffering and bleeding minorities, Christians and Muslims of India. Thank you. And I have for each member of the council a short booklet detailing the issue of Indian Christian persecution.
Thank you.
Daniel Muchala.
Thank you, Mayor and the Council. My name is Daniel Muchala. I've been living in this country for 47 years. As other two brothers and sisters mentioned about Global Hindu Heritage Organization raising fund, when I got email, I was shocked. We come from India, we enjoy freedom to practice any religion in this country. The foundation president is from my home state. He wants to destroy the churches in Tirupati. He's in my home state. He studied in Christian college. He benefited from Christian college. All the Christian institutes there, the churches they want to burn is more than 100 years old. Not only the churches, they have schools, colleges, hostels, orphanages. All these organizations, majority of them studied in Christian institutions in India and came here, and then they're raising funds to destroy churches. It's unacceptable. It's happened on November 27 in Frisco. Frisco is one of the best cities you can live in this country. It's happening like this. Not only for me, it's a nightmare is happening in my home state and my home city. Thank you for this time.
As I call your name, if you can make sure that you, I don't know if my mic is on, as I call your name, if you can make sure that you state your name and your address when you come to the podium, please. Martin Padetti.
Mayor and City Council, my name is Martin Padetti. I'm the Frisco resident. Today we memorize the father of Indian Constitution, Baba Saheb Ambedkar. I just wanted to phrase one of the things he mentioned. Conversion is necessary to the untouchables as a self-government is to the India. I come from untouchable. I was an untouchable. The American missionaries and Baptist missionaries came miles and miles away from my hometown. And they just not give the religion, but they give the social justice and the clutches of the bondages from the untouchability. What is shocking to me this night is after 2022, this year, the land in the Frisco is funding the money, American taxpayers' money, to demolish the churches in India, which is in democratic way, which is very unconstitutional. That's what I wanted to bring into the attention. My grandfather was a pastor, and I lived in all my liberty as a self-respect. But what it feels is, one of the items they mentioned, I studied in Tirupati. The incident one of them mentioned is, I studied in Tirupati, I studied in the university. And what they mentioned is demolish the illegal churches. They can't get away as illegal churches. We are not against if it is illegal. We are always favored to demolish anything illegal. What makes me to stand here, why they are only going against the illegal churches? There is a lot of illegal other places also there. Why they are focusing only on the illegal churches? Is nothing but the propagating the hatred against the Indian Christians, and creating the fear. And that fear, there is a family church happens in my home, and they're going to knock my door and that happens, and everybody who is having the extended families in India, our extended families and lives are at the stake. So that's the reason I just wanted to stand here and bring into our attention whatever you can do. This can be stopped from the American soil, from the Frisco soil, which we should bring that to your attention. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Jensen John. And if you could state your name and your address when you come to the podium, Mr. John.
Greetings, City Council. My name is Jensen John. I'm chairman of the Church of the Way in Frisco, Texas, located at 9404 Lebanon Road. I'm a U.S. citizen, and I've lived, worked, shopped in and around Frisco, Texas for the past 5 years. Frisco is a wonderful town that is well managed. It has good schools, good parks, good churches, good restaurants, and good people in general. We have peace and harmony in our community due to the mutually respectful and positive relationships between people in our community, regardless of their color, religion, sex, and ethnic differences. That peace and harmony in Frisco, Texas came under threat on November 27, 2022. When the Global Hindu Heritage Foundation, or GHHF, conducted a fundraiser event with the explicitly stated purpose, they published, this is not a secret, they published a flyer stating what they were going to do, what they were going to fundraise for. They conducted a fundraiser for the purpose of demolishing so-called illegal churches in India and reconverting people of Christian and Muslim faith to Hindu religion. And for those who are not aware of how this reconversion happens in reality in India, it's done through unethical coercion and the threat of financial harm and physical harm. That's how these reconversions happen. GHHF is using Frisco soil, Texas soil, and collecting money from Texas residents to promote hatred and division in India. They have even performed cultural education in schools across Texas, including here in Frisco and Plano, to students in the form of cultural education. What goes around comes around, and I'm afraid that if decent citizens do not rise up to challenge and defeat these extremist organizations, the peace and harmony between different religious communities will be affected in India. But in Frisco, we have the power and ability and the time to stop it now if we unite for peace and harmony and do what is necessary to stop legally. Frisco and Texas in general has been a good place for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we pray that it stays that way. And as citizens, we will do everything in our power to keep it that way. I humbly urge you, our elected leaders, in spite of your limitations that you have professed, along with my fellow Christian and Muslim brethren of Indian origin, to investigate and put a stop to hateful campaigns and stop the poisonous rhetoric that is being propagated in our community. I hereby submit a copy of our petition for your information and records. Thank you for your time.
Samuel Muchala. Abdul Saeed.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the esteemed members of the City Council for allowing me to speak today. Now that everyone has talked about GHHF, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of this organization. So first, there's not a single person in this room today who doesn't know about the horrors of Nazi Germany. Nazism believed in the supremacy of one group over another. Nazis had no qualms about inflicting the most unimaginable horrors on 6 million Jewish people. They had the clear intent of genocide. Most people today would condemn Nazism and, in fact, all forms of fascism. But unfortunately, we see people who do just the opposite right under our noses here in Frisco, Texas. GHHF, that is the Global Hindu Heritage Foundation, is very open about the fact that they support Hindu supremacism, or Hindutva. Now, let me make it clear that Hindutva is separate from Hinduism. Hinduism is a religion, and Hindutva is the Hindu supremacist ideology. I wonder if they would be equally open about the ugly fascist origin of Hindutva. In 1938, an Indian man named V.D. Savarkar said, and I quote, "Germany has every right to resort to Nazism and Italy to fascism, and events have justified that those isms and forms of governments were imperative and beneficial under the conditions that obtained there." This man is one of the founders of Hindutva ideology that has inflicted so much violence and suffering on minorities today. This is the man who is celebrated by Hindu supremacists across the world. It is impossible to remove Hindutva from Savarkar, and Savarkar was a Holocaust apologist, a rape apologist, and a great fan of the idea that India requires a genocide against Muslims and Christians. Oh, and I forgot, he was also charged as a co-conspirator in the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. It is horrifying to see that now under Prime Minister Modi, Savarkar's vision is coming true. Just last year, India's most powerful Hindu supremacist monks called for a genocide of 200 million Muslims, saying that they would replicate the Rohingya genocide of Myanmar in India. It is simply a fact that Christian genocide would follow close behind. The Holocaust Memorial has listed India as #2 country in the world at risk of mass violence against minorities. According to international news sources, Hitler's autobiography, Mein Kampf, has become the bestseller in India. This alone should tell you enough about the mindset of Hindu supremacists and those who support them. In conclusion, I would like to say that Hindu supremacists in the United States like to defend themselves by claiming that they can support Hindutva while still supporting democratic values. This is laughable. This is not possible to support parts of Nazism, and it is not possible to support parts of Hindutva. It is an ideology that must be unequivocally condemned by all people, and it starts with our local leadership here in Frisco. I'm a Muslim, and today I stand with my Christian brothers. We have been through the pain, and we cannot let it happen to anyone again. Thank you for your time.
Before you leave, if you can state your address, and again, for anybody that comes up, please ensure that you state your name and your full address for the record.
My name is Syed Abdul, and I stay in Irving, Texas. Thank you.
Thank you. Gurvinder Singh. Please state your address.
Gurvinder Singh, Dallas, Texas. First and foremost, I would like to thank the City Council members and the honorable leadership of the City of Frisco for allowing us to voice facts and what is transpiring in this beautiful city. So Maya Angelou has said that if someone tells you who they are, believe them. So instead of me telling you what the RSS is about, I'm going to let the founders of the organization tell you who they are. This is what Golwalkar had stated: to keep up the purity of the race and its culture, Germany shocked the world by her purging the country of the Semitic races, the Jews. Race pride at its highest has been manifested here. This is him talking about the extermination of the Jews and saying that race pride has been manifested. Now, when the entire country, just like the United States, was struggling for sovereignty and freedom from the British, Golwalkar said this to his followers: Hindus, don't waste your energy fighting the British. Save your energy to fight our internal enemies that are Muslims, Christians, and communists. Dr. Gregory Stanton, the president of Genocide Watch, states that there are 10 stages of genocide: classification, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, organization, polarization, preparation, persecution, extermination, and denial. India is on stage 8, basically getting ready for extermination. And we see that with organizations with pompous names calling for the demolition of churches, calling for the extermination of other races, calling for the othering of anyone who does not believe in their warped ideology. So when you other anyone who is not you, then you are preparing for extermination. So we, as citizens of the great nation of the United States of America, as a Sikh American, we came here because of the genocide that was inflicted upon our people and the rapes and the mass killings in the streets all over India, simply because of who we are. And now to see that this thought process has followed us here into Frisco is unfathomable. And I would like to end by saying that Martin Luther King had stated that we will not remember the words of our enemies, but rather the silence of our friends. So as our friends, we request you to not be silent. And I will request all of my brothers and sisters in the audience, if you support what we are struggling and speaking about, please stand and let your voices be heard. Thank you.
Justin Sabu. Mr. Sabu, if you can state your address, please.
My name is Justin Sabu. I reside at Saxe, Texas. Respected Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Pastor Justin Sabu. I'm the pastor at Zion Church, which has a campus here at Frisco, Texas. We meet at Eternity Church at 12550 Independence Parkway. First of all, I thank you for your attention to this very important matter that is very concerning to the citizens in Frisco, the Christian minority in India, and the Christian community in the United States regarding their religious freedom and disturbing the peace in the community. This is a response to Mr. Prakash Rao Velagapudi, who is a resident in Frisco, Texas, and the organization Global Hindu Heritage Foundation, which hosted a fundraiser gala on the weekend of Thanksgiving on November 28th in Frisco. The agenda of the gala was to raise funds in the U.S. to demolish churches in India, to reconvert Christians to Hindus, and many more atrocities that he was propagating. Mr. Mayor, we are brothers and sisters of different faith backgrounds who reside in this great nation, the United States. The United States was built on the foundation of religious freedom, and we are here being able to peaceable practice of our faith. However, the Global Hindu Heritage Foundation is abusing this privilege by committing human rights violations and perpetuating religious persecution in India. Specifically, Global Hindu Heritage Foundation is using its platform as a US 501c3 to raise financial support for the destruction of churches in India. These are not mere accusations. Rather, Global Hindu Heritage Foundation has openly admitted its intent on widely circulated flyer. The leader has lengthy Facebook posts, even 12 hours ago, sharing about the advancement of their destructive work and solicit funds to support the effort. He also falsely writes how dangerous Christians are and falsely claims that Christian charity organizations are used as a cover for forced Hindu conversions, etc. And we have heard the other round of it just before me. This can create religious and communal violence in our nation. Please be informed that India is a secular country with the freedom to practice any religion. Apostle Thomas was the first missionary to India. Over the years, Christian missionaries have preached against the evils of caste system and worked hard for developing a clean society based on self-respect and social justice. They have established schools for the education of girls and lower caste people and provide health care for all. However, the propaganda circulated by this organization is blatantly false and incites hatred against fellow human beings. Destruction of these churches is not an activity sanctioned by the Indian government. Instead, Global Hindu Heritage Foundation efforts will fund and grow a militant group committed to violating principles of basic human rights and freedom of religion enshrined in the Indian Constitution. Let me be very clear. This is not merely an issue that concerns India. Such activities should also concern this council deeply. As a community, we are all committed to build inclusive home of people on all faith grounds. Thank you. Thank you for hearing us out.
Thank you.
Aisha Habib, and following Aisha, Akil Mohammed, if you wish to speak. Will be after Ms. Habib. Please state your address, please.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Aisha Habib. I'm from Plano, Texas. As an American Indian Muslim, I would first like to let the Indian Christian community know how deeply sorry and concerned I was when I heard about what happened right here in Frisco a few days ago. I know too well what persecution and discrimination feels like. I want the Indian Christian community in Frisco and in all parts of the world to know that we, Indian Muslims, stand with you in this moment of sorrow and torment. You are our brothers and sisters, and you have a friend and ally in us. As Muslims, we religiously believe that the protection of churches and houses of worship is a religious duty, and to this end, I lend my Christian neighbors and friends my support and best wishes. Council members, I am an American Indian, and I'm proud of my heritage. Indian civilization is an old civilization just like other ancient civilizations and has always been religiously diverse. However, in recent years, there has been this resurgence of Hindu supremacism that has disturbed the diversity. We live here in America, a nation founded on the principles of religious freedom. And it is this ideal of religion that must be celebrated. For too long, Christians, Dalits, and Muslims have been persecuted in India. But since it has become clear the money is being sent from right here in Frisco to further the religious persecution of Indian minorities, I would like to ask the City Council of Frisco to please condemn this obscene supremacist movement and its raising and funneling of funds to India for religious persecution. Thank you so much for your time.
Akil Mohammed and Abdul Rahim, please come forward. Please state your address.
Good evening, Mayor and the City Council members and audience, my brothers and sisters. I live in Murphy, Texas. I just would like to say that we are not here to protest or anything against City Council or the Mayor, and we are not here against our Hindu brothers and sisters, and we are not here against any other religion. We are here just to share our concern about this ideology, about this Hindutva supremacy. And as a Muslim, our teachings, our Holy Book Quran and our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, teach us to stand up for justice regardless of our faith. So I'm here to show my support, solidarity with my Christian brothers and sisters. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the City Council. First, you asked me to state my name. My name is Abdul Rahim. I'm a proud resident of City of Frisco for the last 2 decades. I'm here to raise some of my concerns, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. Today, we live in a globalized world where things that happen far home affect us wherever we are. The rise of violent supremacist movement in India, known as Hindutva, whose victims includes many Hindus, most notable fascist Mahatma Gandhi, that has been taken by the world by storm. In 2020, outside the United States, the Indian consulate in the United States in Houston City, pro-Hindutva activists chanted death and rape threats at the families, including Muslim women and children that were protesting citizenship laws that were discriminatory against Muslims. In Australia in 2021, Hindutva functionaries attacked Sikhs, another Muslim minority community, or Hindu communities, with the basketball or baseball bats and hammers, what they could get hold on. In 2022, Hindutva mobs in United Kingdom attacked and rioted in Leicester, an area where a sizable population of British Muslims resides. Just a few months ago, in September 2022, Hindutva mobs consist of hundreds of people rioted and harassed Sikhs in Canada in the presence of the police, who were finding it difficult to maintain the crowd control. Now they are contributing to a feeling of insecurity among the Indian Christians here in Frisco and across America. The victims of Hindutva are Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Dalits, and all people of conscience who they want to oppress. In America, their intimidation tactics even include regular death threats, threats to rape families and children of American professors, academicians, and activists who are raising awareness on this matter in America. I ask the City Council to condemn what has happened here in Frisco. I also ask you to join me in letting the Indian Christian community to know that we stand with them. Even though we may come from different backgrounds, we all share one humanity. Ask the people who could raise this issue to the Department of Justice and the federal enforcement to investigate in any federal and state laws they have violated. Thank you for allowing me to give this opportunity. Thank you.
All right, those are all the speakers we had signed up to speak. We did have quite a few other cards that just voiced their support for the same item. Want to thank you all for joining us. I know we have some Frisco residents here, and many of you drove a long way to be here to share what was on your mind. So those visiting our community here tonight, we hope you have a safe travel home.